Hello, and welcome to the Incident Command Training Overview. In this video, we'll review some core features and how to set up a scenario. The first step is to enter in either an student ID number, or you can also enter in a student name. This information will save out a file that saves the recording metrics from the simulation that you can review with the student afterwards in an after-action review setting. So the first step is to pick a location. We have a one-story house, a two-story house, a hotel, a three-story apartment complex, a big box, Fairbanks Curve, which is a traffic incident, and a rural area. So I'm going to pick the two-story house and click Next. So this is the Select Fire Start Location screen, and I can click any of these gray flames either on the first floor or the second floor for a fire start location. So I'm going to have an internal fire in the garage for this scene. I'll click Next. I can also select where I would like a victim to be. So I'm going to place a victim on the second story in the bedroom near the garage, and then click Next. Here I can select different parameters. I can change the building frame, change the roof type. I can put toys in the yard or a car in the driveway, different visual indicators of how an incident commander may address the scene. You can also change the time of day from day, dusk, night, and rain. Rain has both rain and lightning. So for this example, I'll leave it on day and then click Start. So on this screen, this is the trainer screen. There's three main sections. On the left side, we have recording metrics. So this is a list of the different metrics I as an instructor can look at and see if the student is performing or not. The middle section is a view of the simulation. So this top section is what the student would see. And the bottom section is a schematic view of the scene that the instructor uses to issue different commands. The right side of the screen has a simulation control panel. This is where I can control the wind speed and direction, change the attack mode. I can pause and end the simulation. I have a list of events, and then I have my units that I can select. So at this point, the student would not be seeing this view. They would see a view that says in transit. And typically, an instructor would role-play dispatch, and they could communicate with the incident commander as if they were en route to a scenario. So once they've gone through that process, the instructor would then click this Arrive button. And on the instructor side, I would now see the events that I can trigger, and on the student side, they would see the view of this incident. So one of the main things that they can do when they come on scene is actually do a 360 around the property. So they can actually go around, they can see inside the house. So in this garage we see fire here. And then once they've performed a 360 review, they could set up a RIT team. So if they give a command, perhaps for the RIT team to be set up in this area, I would select one of these available units and click on RIT, and we'll see a RIT team walk in, and then their gear will be on the ground. So one of the core things that I can do as an instructor is move different units around by clicking in this bottom screen. Or this bottom section. So if I click, let's say in the middle of the driveway, I'll have another unit walk in. So I could also click over here and then they'll walk over there. So the way that this would work in a training environment is as the student is issuing commands to dispatch and to his team, I, as an instructor, would essentially control the team and how they move around in the simulation based off of the instructions from the student. So I can click around to have the firefighters move, but then I also see these different icons on the top-down view. So this blue icon is a window, the red icon is a door. If I click on, say, the front door, I get this list of options of opening the door, adding a fan, or running a line. And based off of what I click, the unit I have selected over here will perform that action. So for example, if the student asks for the utilities to be shut off, I, as an instructor, would click on this utility box icon and then click on turn off, and then we would see the firefighters walk up, turn the utilities off, and then we would get some audio feedback as well. Again, perhaps the student would ask for the the garage door to be vented. So just as an instructor, I just click on this garage door, click cut open, and then from here, these firefighters will walk over to that location automatically. They'll start performing their action, and then I, as an incident commander, can continue to command the scene and issue different commands. So I'm going to bring in another unit and ask them to go into the front door. So we'll see them walk up. They'll open the door. And then once the door is open, they'll essentially wait for a new command. So if the incident commander wants them to go in and perform a search, the instructor would need to click inside the house, and then they'll go to where they're clicking inside. You notice that once the garage door was vented, we start to see smoke coming out of there. So I'm going to click on Unit 3 and move them. Now, if the incident commander requested for there to be water put on this fire, the instructor would need to assign Unit 3 to a hose. And I'll bring them over here onto the driveway. And then click on their icon in the driveway to get them to start spraying. And then they'll automatically start spraying the fire that's closest to them. Again, if I wanted the firefighters inside to run a line, what I would do is click on the door, click the number of hoses that I'd want them to bring in, and then click hose. So at this point, the incident commander would see a hose that has been run in, so they have a visual indicator of the decisions that have been made. So I'm going to we're seeing fire in here, so I'm going to bring these firefighters out. Now at this point, the student may not have found the victim yet. So one of the things that the instructor can do is on the events page, we have a property owner freak out. So I would click initiate, and what we would see
My wife is in there. She can't get out.
Is a property owner who's coming in and giving us some new information. So if the student performs a rescue or requests a rescue be performed, the instructor would essentially select the victim and then click rescue. I'm going to stop this crew real quick and have them put out this fire. So I'm going to bring the hose team up and select them to start spraying. So now that that fire is out, I'm going to request that they perform a rescue. You'll notice that this fire that originally started in the garage is spreading across the house because we haven't put any water on this portion yet. You also notice that at this point I cannot see the firefighters inside the house, but as an instructor on this bottom screen I can see kind of where they're at. And we'll see this rescue being performed. So I'm going to bring over my Unit 4 and get some water. On this external fire. Now they will eventually put out this fire on their own. Or as an instructor, I can actually right click. This is an example where I could right click on the fire to maybe put it out a little faster. Same with these internal fires. If we did have water on them, they would go out. Or as an instructor, I can click on these flames and those fires will be put out. So this is just a quick example of how a scene could be pretty easily set up with some good visual indicators and different feedback that the student could use as they're going through this scenario. So I'm going to show you a couple of the key features. The first being the ability to add fire anywhere. So I'm actually going to end this simulation, go back to our main menu, and for this I'm going to select the apartment complex. I'm not going to add any fire or victims, and I'll just leave these as the default and click Start. So again, just to reiterate, I can click, as an instructor, I can click anywhere externally. So right now I'm clicking and holding my left mouse button and dragging. And anywhere where I drag, fire will be added. And the smoke on the fire goes through light color for new smoke all the way to dark thick smoke, depending on the age of the fire. I can also right click, so now I'm right clicking on my mouse and holding, and that will extinguish the fire. So this is a really good tool when setting up specific scenarios. So for example, if we wanted to maybe set up a barbecue fire that was on a balcony, as an instructor I could just kind of draw this fire in this area. Oops, I'm going to delete that. In this area, and then during my call with dispatch en route, you could get information about perhaps the type of fire or type of incident that we're coming on. And then once we click arrive, because remember the student is not seeing this yet, but when we click arrive, the student would now see this incident as they're coming up. So now I'm going to show you, I'm going to end this, I'm going to show you another nice feature, which is the ability to change wind speed and direction. So for this I'm going to use the rural area. Again, I'll leave these as default and click Start. So as I set up my scene, in this scene and in any scene, I can change to a top-down view to kind of get a better look at my scenario. But here I'm just going to add a line of fire that's kind of in this rural area next to a neighborhood. I'm going to right-click this fire because that's a little too close. But you'll notice that this fire that I added, I can actually also add it in this view if I wanted to. But here the smoke is just going directly up. And this option right here is our wind speed and direction. And depending on where I move this blue ball, so I'm clicking and holding this blue ball, it'll move the wind speed and direction. So you'll notice once I do that, that this smoke starts to blow in a specific direction. So even with this simple setup, I could have a type of scenario that could be vastly different if the wind speed was blowing towards these houses. So now I'll move the fire. So we got a close fire right here. I'll put these guys out. So I'm right clicking and holding. So now we see the smoke blowing towards the houses, and this fire will actually spread in that direction as well. We've had clients who use this basically to simulate changing wind. So even though an incident starts off with one direction, the direction could change over the course of time. We see this fire is kind of spreading closer. We can also make the wind obviously blow towards the student. So this is a good way to add to some challenges with visually seeing incidents. So in other scenes, being able to kind of obscure views, those types of things, based off of where the smoke's blowing. All right, so that's just a high-level overview of the Incident Command Simulator, and thank you for viewing.